When Europeans of the silent generation settled into the U.S., they descended and they settled within their own ethnicities. And they went to towns where jobs were in demand. Now, though many of them found employment, many of them still struggled to make ends meet. And when a man and a woman decided to get married, those families of the silent generation and the baby boomers often had trouble affording the costs of the wedding. And that included the wedding cake. Now, I grew up outside of Youngstown, Ohio, between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. My ancestors were armed with recipes. They were fantastic cooks, wonderful bakers. They didn't go out to eat like you and I do with such frequency. And so they put their baking skills to task. And they brought homemade cookies to the wedding to help defray the wedding costs for those families and friends. And thus, a tradition was born, the cookie table. Italian weddings, yeah, they had their butter cookies. Irish weddings, they had their soda bread cookies. German weddings, they had their Heidelbeeren. The Polish, they had their kolache. The Greeks, they had their baklava, and so on and so on. Now, with time, transportation became more mainstream, and with that, ethnic blending took to the streets. And with that, that ethnic blending made its way to the altar, which meant cookie tables took on variety. Italian pizzelle, meet German Linzer. Linzer, pizzelle, pizzelle, Linzer, you get the picture. Cookie tables then took on volume, and for some it became a matter of bragging rights. And for those who were more frequent attendees, it was a matter of looking for their favorites. Where are the lady locks? Where are the nut rolls? Where are the clothespin cookies? Started so little, and yet it yielded such abundance. It brought together friends, family, and food. It's about expressing your love for two families that create a new one, all while maintaining tradition. Now, speaking of tradition, when we talk about that, we also talk about our pride. And with that, our pride can get hurt if a tradition is questioned. So there are a couple questions that linger around the cookie table. The first thing is, who started it? The Greeks, yeah, we did it. The Germans, we did it. The Slovaks, yes. And then the Italians, and as my dad would so often interject, aspetamo. Now, there are other vociferous arguments online as to just exactly where it started. In Pittsburgh, it starts and ends here. Back close to where I lived, it's like, look, it doesn't matter where it started. All that matters is that we started it. Fortunately, today's younger generations, they're not concerned about where it started or who started it. They're more concerned about their cooking creations, coming up with some new varieties. And that's one of the other beauties of today's cookie table, is that its dependability and its reliability. It's talking about wanting to serve those in need, regardless of the economic times, be it good or bad. So let me ask you a question by applause. How many of you have never experienced a cookie table? Now you see this is something you're used to. You're doing the wedding, train, dance, and all this. This is what you're used to. Now I hope you really experience something like this, because when you see this, you jump off the wedding train and you're like, oh boy, I haven't had any and I want more. Now let me ask you ladies a question. When you go to a wedding, is this how you pack? You just pack light. Seriously, you just pack a little mini bag just for the essentials. You go to a cookie table wedding, you bring a satchel. Why? You need something to put a lot of cookies in, right? The last wedding I went to, you see that? I got smart. I brought Tupperware. It's like, hey, congrats to the bride and groom. Show me the type 2 diabetes and the chicken dance. Da-na-na-na-na-na. Damn straight. It's about the cookie table. It's the highlight of the wedding reception. Never mind cookie tables. You go to some places, there are cookie rooms. And in these places, you don't need a satchel or Tupperware. To-go boxes, courtesy of the bride and groom. Now, I'll finish with this. The Cookie Monster wrote a book. It's called The Joy of Cookies, The Cookie Monster's Guide to Life. And in it, he says, no cry because cookie finished. Smile because cookie happened. Life happens. And when life happens, love happens. And when love happens, well, at least where I grew up, cookie happens. Thank you.